Thank you so much, Commissioner Nguyo, for leading us so well. Let's give him a good clap. Our chief guest, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, and our Minister, the Cabinet Secretary, Interior, and Government Administration, one of the ministers who is very busy ensuring that there is coordination in matters of peace, security, among other responsibilities, and we are so glad, Waziri, that you found time out of your busy schedules to come and be with us. Before I make some remarks, in as far as the roadmap is concerned, IEBC, our brother, Erastus Ethekon. One thing I've come to realize, NCIC, like other agencies, the space where elections will be held. Let's hear what they have put in place. Let's put our hands together and welcome our chair, IEBC. Let's put our hands together and welcome our chair, IEBC. And then thereafter, just in that sequence, DHE, you'll also just follow. Have you put in place? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, NCIC, Bishop Omai, the chief guests, Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Honorable Onesimus Kipchumba Murkomen, the Chairperson of NCIC, the Chairpersons of independent commissions present here, commissioners, and all invited guests. Amjambo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Allow me to make very few remarks during this very special occasion. I know for me, this is music to my soul because we are talking about uchaguzi bila noma, right? Are we together?
Yes.
So I am the first person who would love to have uchaguzi bila noma. So I wish to begin by thanking NCIC for the invitation for us to participate in this important occasion and the launch of the Uchaguzi Bila Noma initiative, and for your continued leadership in championing the cause of national cohesion and peaceful elections in the Republic of Kenya. We gather here, ladies and gentlemen, well aware that we are within 350 days to the 10th of August, 2020, which is the D-Day for our elections 2027. So it is on that 10th of all walks of life will be called upon political rights and constitutional rights under Article 38 of the Constitution to come out in large numbers and to elect their leaders, from the president all the way down to the MCA. So it's a very defining moment for us and for all Kenyans. We are also reminded that as we prepare for 2027 general elections, we have had many other elections in the Republic of Kenya. I think since independence, Kenya has been one of those republics that has never failed to hold a general election. Am I correct? So I know for sure during my adulthood, I was able to witness some elections of 1992, 97, up to date. But I don't remember the one of 1988 and beyond. Maybe the chief guest, I'm sure he was there. But truly, as a country, we've set a record of being one of those countries that has successfully held elections throughout the course of our democratic democratization and democratic journey as we build our nation. But we are also aware that our electoral history carries some both painful lessons but also good lessons. In some of these elections, those of you who recall 1992, 1997, there were tensions sometimes that resulted to incidences of violence. In 2007, of course, that was a very devastating moment for us as a country that has always, prior to that, prided itself in being the island of peace in the sea of turmoil, in the sea of trouble. Because when you look around at our neighbors, there was trouble everywhere. But then Kenya was this island of peace and tranquility. But 2007, this devil, I don't know, Bishop, where that devil came from, the devil visited our country, and we know what happened. We lost more than 1,000 lives. We destroyed our property, our social infrastructure, our public infrastructure. We destroyed that trust among communities. We broke that bond of social cohesion and peaceful coexistence. And we saw our economy nosedived from the growth of about 7 heading to 9%. We went below, actually 0, to negative 2.8. And of course, many other factors happened. Inflation went up, and of course, livelihoods were compromised. And I was one of those young officers that time working for the United Nations Development Program. And when these things happened, we did what we call early recovery needs assessment. And that required us to visit all the areas that were affected by the post-election violence. We visited 14 districts that time, and we saw what was happening. We came face to face with communities in IDP camps, internally displaced persons camps, in all of those districts. We came face to face with suffering of young children in those IDP camps. We came face to face with the madness that led us to destroy even our water systems, water tanks, pipes, roads, police stations, literally everything. And I believe we are gathered here within that context and appreciating our history and reflecting upon those lessons and making sure that whatever we do, we always remember what happened that time. And that should inform what we are going to do to secure a peaceful and credible elections come 2027. So I implore you as a chairperson of this commission not to forget. I was just mentioning to the Prime Cabinet Secretary that those children who are born in 2007, they are now heading to 20 years. And because they were not there, or they were toddlers, they might not have the benefits of knowledge and understanding of what happened 2007. And yet, they are the people now in our register. They are the people now active in social media. They are the people now active in political rallies. If they don't understand what happened, then they can easily be misled to participate in those things that are likely to harm them and to harm the peace and stability of our country. So we must be sensitive as adults who are there, who experienced it, who saw it all. We must be sensitive as we engage our young people. And that requires us to show a certain level of conduct, a certain level of hygiene, political hygiene, that will give these young people a good example as they engage for the first time as they participate for the first time in the political and democratic journey of their country. As IEBC, we are a duty bearer. And I can see here we have a gathering, and thank you, Bishop, for bringing all of us together. This is a gathering of heavyweights. You know, in the language of human rights, where I schooled many years ago, we have what you call the rights holders and the duty bearers. You can use it interchangeably, but here I appreciate that most of us who are given this opportunity to serve our country in the various positions where we are, whether it's in the executive, whether it's in the independent commissions and offices, whether it is in civil society, whether it's in the media, we have to appreciate that the duty falls on our shoulders. So we are the duty bearers. And as duty bearers, it's our responsibility to ensure that we guarantee the rights holders, who are the Kenyans, that peaceful space and conducive environment within which they can exercise their rights. They can enjoy their rights to freely elect their leaders. They can enjoy their rights to a secure environment. They can enjoy their rights to life. They can enjoy their rights to property, because that's our responsibility. So as IEBC, we will continue discharging our mandate because we bear the duty to ensure that Kenya and Kenyans indeed enjoy that right of a credible, peaceful, free and fair elections come 2027. And in that regard, speeded up our efforts to prepare for 2027. You've seen the last week we've gazetted the official election period as per the Constitution. We are required to gazette elections 1 year, exactly 1 year to the date when we will be voting. And we've done that. So the information is out there. We have gazetted the electoral timelines, which are mandatory, and therefore take this opportunity to also call upon those of us who are interested in participating in politics, including the political parties, to ensure that we adhere to those electoral timelines, because they are cast in stone. So if you are required to resign by a particular date, if you are a state officer, please do so. Don't come later on crying and shedding tears, telling us that we are treating you unfairly, and yet we have given you adequate notice. And the same applies to political parties and all those things. We are currently planning to roll out the mass voter registration, the second phase. We did the first one, which went successfully, and right now we have a total register of new voters of 2.9 million. Makofi tafadhali. And our target is 6.3 million, so we are doing quite well. We are continuing to register voters, even in our Huduma centers and constituency offices across the country. But very soon we will announce to the nation the next phase of the mass voter registration exercise. We will also roll out voter education with the support of various organizations, some of which are present here, who have been accredited to support us with voter education, including the religious community and the civil society. And of course, we will continue engaging with all the actors, because elections is not the business of IEBC alone. You know, when I go to some places, everybody is looking at me and saying, chairman, chairman. No, it's not chairmans alone, you know. Elections is the responsibility of all of us to make sure that we organize the best election in the history of the Republic. I would also want to mention something to do with our youth. I think a lot has been said. We've always been telling the youth, oh, you know, you are this, you are the future leaders, don't be used, don't be misused. I think to put it into context, the political actors must know that we can't escape from the fact that the youth are now the majority of our voters. That's a fact. When we publish the final register, which will be somewhere next year, once we finish the registration of voters, and then we engage in cleaning the register, doing the public audit and inspection, and the final publication, I will invite you to study that register. you will realize that close to 70% of the registered voters are young people. 70%. We have the statistics and we will share with you. We will do data segregation, and you will get to know. In the last election, 2022, the voter turnout was 64.4%. If you stretch your memory back to 2017 elections, the voter turnout was 78.9%. So that tells you from 2017 to 2022, there was a sudden drop from 78.9 to 64.4. That means somewhere in between, we lost about 2 million voters who did not show up to vote for their leaders. Sadly, most of those voters, very easily, most of those voters come from that category of the young people, of the youth. So what are we telling political parties and politicians? You have to be very careful in the way in which you engage with the young people, the way in which, even within your party structures, or even within your campaigning strategies, the more you create an environment of anarchy, violence, goonism, the more these young people would tend to stay away from all this. Remember, this is a very impressionable group. Easily they get bored with this kind of environment. So as we move towards the next election, I will urge all politicians to desist from activities. These young people, this ethnicity thing, they don't want those things. And when they see our politicians emphasizing on negative ethnicity, profiling, zoning, hate, they have a choice to stay out of it. And therefore, the voter turnout is likely to go even further down. So instead, let us do positive messaging, positive campaigns that will encourage these young people, that will excite them to join in as the new voters to elect their leaders. As I conclude, I would also like to address the media. I can see many cameras here. I think the media, you have immense power. And with power comes also responsibility. We need to ask ourselves, all these stories that we are churning out there, are they for the good of the country, of your country, or are they likely to take our country in the wrong direction? And for the elections, are you promoting democracy in the republic, or you are stifling, or you are undermining the very same integrity that you demand from IEBC and other stakeholders by the way in which you report facts and truths? We've witnessed a situation where the media sometimes twists facts, and the media has thrown away caution out of the window. We see situations where you don't fact check some of these politicians when they peddle around some rumors and some malicious falsehoods. That's not good. As responsible journalists, I'm sure you've been trained, you have your code, and you should apply that to help us give Kenyans the correct facts so that then they can trust in what we are doing and prepare to turn up in large numbers and to exercise their democratic rights. In conclusion, allow me to thank NCIC for activating this campaign of Uchaguzi Bila Noma. I know Kenyans were very resilient. Sometimes we might feel a bit down, a bit hopeless, but when we wake up and rally ourselves around, there is a way in which we turn things around. And I've seen it in 2012, 2013, when we launched the Uyano platform, and I'm very happy, Bishop, you have a vice chair who was one of my officers those days, and we worked on the Uyano platform, Chagua Amani Zuia Noma, and I believe that is initiative of today is a continuation of that initiative. And I believe now that we have activated the soft power, Prime Cabinet Secretary, this is called the soft power, peace building, conflict prevention, mediation, arbitration, and all that. And I believe one of the things that I want us to encourage is that panel of eminent mediators. We want as IEBC to have that group of eminent Kenyans who will be intermediaries, interlocutors, who will create a safe space for us to have dialogue with even the political competitors, the candidates, so that then we are not bogged down by the desire to do everything, and yet we have all these structures that can help us to mediate some of the things. But I also urge that in as much as we apply the soft power, where the soft power fails, I believe that's why Masengeli is here representing IG, and of course the Minister for Interior is here. We need also to employ the hard power, because whatever it takes, we have to secure the country. We have to secure the greater public good. So I believe we will work together as agencies with the mandates and as duty bearers as we prepare the country for a successful 2027 general election. In the same breath, as IEBC, once we have gazetted the election period, which we did last week on the 19th of August, that means our elections code of conduct comes into force. We have something called Electoral Code of Conduct under the Elections Act and under Article 84 of the Constitution. That is the tool that we'll be using to hold politicians accountable. That is the tool that we will use to monitor conduct that amounts to breaches of the Electoral Code of Conduct, and we will use that to bring some sanity to the electoral space. So my call and my rallying cry to fellow citizens and of course agencies involved, let us be proactive in investigating some of these political actors and their activities, and let us use that information to petition IEBC to take action against those errant politicians who think they are above the law. Why would 2,000 people disrupt the peace of 55 million Kenyans? Is that fair? Because they're looking for a job. So that mechanism requires that you report to us, and we use that information not to take appropriate action, including fining them. Na kama mbaya, if it's really tough, we will even disqualify some of them from contesting, because why would you clear a leader who is undermining the peace and stability of the country? I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chair IEBC, and thank you, the Chair NCIC, for welcoming us. Your Excellency, the Chief Guest, Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, who is also the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, who is our Cabinet Secretary for Ministry of Interior and National Administration, and all the heavyweights in this house. Good afternoon. Oh, it's still morning. You see, from where I come from, if it reaches at 4 p.m. and you've not taken lunch, it's still morning. And if it reaches before noon and you still feel hungry, then it's afternoon. So just tell your neighbor congratulations. Congratulations for coming for this forum. Thank you so much. As the National Police Service of Kenya, our mandate is protection of life and property. So your safety is our responsibility at all costs, and we will deal with it firmly as our colleague Ngala just said. Ngala, thank you for mentioning that. And that was a true testament that it is a shared responsibility. Security work is a calling whereby you have to make a called choice. In fact, a choice between two alternatives, and the fixed resolve not to quit. A renunciation that we must make not once, not twice, but all times as much as we are still in this work of security. It is my honor also to attend this important occasion of marking the launch of the Roadmap of Free Violence 2027 second edition, Uchaguzi Bila Noma. The chair asked, what is Uchaguzi Bila Noma? And my neighbor said, Uchaguzi Bila Kasheshe. In the Uchaguzi Bila Noma. I believe you have also your answer on the same. And I would like to say that it is important, as we wish to commence this agencies, that there are commissions, independent and chairpersons, but in this regard also I would like to remind ourselves that as much as we are independent in our own commissions, in our own capacities, but independent is interdependence. We depend on each other because it reaches a point whereby you can't go beyond. So in our undertakings at all costs, remember independence is interdependence because we depend on each other. The center of gravity is Kenya. It's you and me to ensure that Kenya is safe, and Kenya is bigger than anybody else. Allow me to say that national police, it is our significant and our mandate that go beyond maintaining peace, protection of life and property, and when tensions have already escalated, prevention must therefore remain the center of our approach. And in this regard, I want to assure you that as National Police Service, we will continue to work closely with NCIC and other stakeholders to strengthen early warnings, early response mechanism, enhance community engagement, even up to Nyumba Kumi, so that the vulnerable groups ensure that security interventions and professional impartial are firmly anchored into law, and at the same time, peace is shared responsibility. To the political leaders, have a particularly important role to play. They have ability to calm or inflame their supporters. We therefore encourage all political actors to embrace best competition, respect their opponent, and during the heightened political emotions, because as much as everybody has got a right, but your right does not suspend other people's rights. That one, you have to take it with the seriousness it deserves. It is equally important to embrace that. It is also equally important to embrace that peaceful 2027 general election must go hand in hand with the protection of civil and political rights that are granted by our Constitution. As just I've mentioned, police work, ours is protection of life and property. And in this regard now, elections being the national security undertaking, as the National Police Service, we are at the center of ensuring peaceful, secure, and credible elections at all costs. We have no other option. And the advantage with the reality is that we have to abide by the reality or you suffer. National Police Service will work with other agencies, all security agencies, all other agencies that are for peace and for the betterment of every Kenya to provide security before, during, and after elections. National Police Service will fully participate in the elections by securing arrangements programs which are co-chaired by IEBC and IG with participation of other agencies and organizations, including NCIC. Allow me to say National Police Service will ensure the surveillance, detection, investigation, arrests, prevention of crime, and instances of political instigated violence. We will deal with goons, family, and their sponsors. We will recommend to the IEBC those individuals that are not fit to run for offices based on their track record of promoting or perpetrating violence in Kenya. Observe political and civil rights, as we know that public and national security is a calling for all of us. I also challenge you to go back to the Constitution and get a glimpse of political and social rights as per our Constitution. In this regard, as much as you have all the freedom to do whatever you want to do, but there are some limits when it comes to threat to the national security. There are some limits when it comes to the threat to the common good of the public. So, police, we are here to protect and safeguard greater good of public security, safeguarding while respecting individual rights. Also, remember to do the right thing in the right way for the good reason. As police, we normally don't talk so much. I'm sorry I've talked so much, but allow me to stop there, but wish you best of everything.
Thank you so much, Bwana DHE, and also our chair, IEBC. Before I bring to the podium our cabinet secretary, I wish to say a few or make a few remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor indeed and privilege to welcome you today for this launch of the roadmap to violence-free 2027 Uchaguzi bila noma. By the way, from where I come from, my background, being a clergy, when the congregation has sat for a while, you ask them to stand up and stretch a little bit. Can we just stand for 1 minute? Some of you have got wrist watches, I believe, smart watches that normally indicate that it's time for you to stand and stretch. If you have done so, you may be seated. There's wisdom behind that. This roadmap, distinguished guests who have come to be with us this morning, is a significant part of our rapid response initiative and is a testament to our collective journey at the National Cohesion and Integration Commission as we mark 98 days since assuming office as the fourth commission. This milestone is a clear demonstration of our shared commitment in ensuring that the 2027 general election is peaceful, inclusive, credible, and reflective of the aspirations of all Kenyans. Elections, ladies and gentlemen, are a fundamental pillar of our democracy. They provide citizens with an opportunity to exercise their constitutional and democratic right to choose their leaders and participate in shaping the future of our country. However, our history reminds us that if mishandled, Elections can be seasons of heightened tension, division, intolerance, and in some instances, violence. As we move towards the 2027 general elections, as our chair, IEBC, has clearly explained, we must therefore make a deliberate choice that competition for political office must never come at the expense of human life, national unity, or the peace and stability of our country. So the launch of this roadmap is therefore not just the unveiling of a document. No, it's a call to action. It's a collective commitment by institutions, leaders, communities, and citizens to begin the work of prevention of violence early enough, rather than responding when tensions have escalated. We are paying attention to what we call EWA, early warning and early response. You have heard me say it again and again. We are not a reactive commission. We are a preventive commission. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission is deeply concerned by the growing manifestations of political intolerance, hate speech, ethnic contempt, disinformation, and other forms of divisive rhetoric in our public discourse. Words spoken carelessly by leaders and influential individuals can deepen divisions, fuel mistrust, and create conditions that may ultimately threaten national peace and cohesion. We must therefore remember that leadership carries responsibility. So as we approach the 2027 elections, political leaders, aspirants, opinion shapers, and all those with public influence must exercise restraint, responsibility, and patriotism. We must reject the politics of exclusion at all costs and embrace politics founded on ideas, issues, and service to the people. The roadmap we launched today provides an achieving violence-free elections that cannot be left to only one institution. It requires a multi-sectoral approach, collaborative approach, bringing together various non-governmental and governmental institutions, national, county governments, security agencies, political actors, civil society, the media, interfaith leaders, and in our midst are quite a number of our interfaith leaders, development partners who have been very supportive, communities, and the youth, among others, as has been explained. So our main focus as a commission must be on prevention. That's why we have this launch today. We must strengthen early warning and early response mechanisms, address triggers to conflicts before they escalate, counter hate speech and disinformation. And for your information, ladies and gentlemen, you have begun to see action. As Commissioner Kedogo said, when a baby is born, you give him or her time to grow teeth. And once the teeth are begun to emerge, mothers, you know what happens. We have begun biting. And this one is going to be done fairly, but without any favor when it comes to those who trigger hate speech. Apart from that, ladies and gentlemen, in this early we address triggers to conflicts before they escalate, with the tools and platforms necessary to resolve disputes peacefully. The youth who form a critical constituency in our electoral and democratic processes must be placed at the center of peace-building efforts, and that's why we have what we call this transgenerational dialogue with our young people. They must not be viewed as instruments of political violence, but as partners and leaders in the peace-building process in Kenya. Fellow Kenyans, peaceful elections begin long before polling day. They are built through the language we use, the institutions we strengthen, the grievances we address, and the relationships we build among communities. The work begins now, and it begins with you and me. Can you please look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, the work begins now, and it begins with you and me. That's the collaboration we are talking about. So as the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, we reaffirm our commitment to working with all stakeholders to promote national unity, peaceful coexistence, and social cohesion throughout the electoral cycle. We'll continue to strengthen our efforts in monitoring and responding to hate speech and ethnic contempt, facilitating dialogue, supporting peace structures, and promoting responsible leadership and citizenship. We must all recognize that peace is a shared responsibility. It cannot be left to one institution. And every Kenyan has a role to play. Every leader must choose responsible speech over inflammatory rhetoric. Every political party must place the interests of the country above vested political interests. Every citizen must reject incitement, violence, and manipulation. As we launch this roadmap today, that we call Roadmap to Violence-Free 2027 General Elections, Uchaguzi Bila Noma, let it serve as our collective declaration that Kenya will not repeat the mistakes of the past. Let us commit ourselves to an electoral process where political competition does not divide, where diversity is celebrated rather than weaponized, and where every Kenyan can participate freely and safely in the democratic process. The 2027 general elections must demonstrate the maturity of our democracy and the strength of our national cohesion. Let us therefore walk this journey together with vigilance, responsibility, courage, and an unwavering commitment to sustainable peace. And with these remarks, I wish to thank all the institutions, partners, and stakeholders who have contributed to the development of this roadmap and who continue to work tirelessly towards a peaceful Kenya. We appreciate all partners who continue to be key players towards the achievement of the NCIC mandate. Special thanks to UNDP and COICA for the constant support towards the realization of the roadmap, engaging the youth through the transgenerational conversations, town halls, hate speech monitoring, peace messaging, and the development and dissemination of key policies. We also want to thank the executive. We thank His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, together with the leadership in the executive, legislators, or those who are in both the National Parliament, Senate, county governors, and all leaders of goodwill for their support. We have called on our leaders through courteous calls, asking for support. And I whispered this morning to our chief guest, His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, and I've also been on our Minister, our CS Interior, that if there was a time NCIC needed all the support, like IEBC, and the agencies, especially that are working through what we call the multi-sectoral collaboration is now. If there was a place, our chief guest and our cabinet secretary, you really push to making sure there is adequate resourcing is in NCIC. Why? Before elections, we must safeguard the peace landscape of this country so that that vision that the president has, all of us have, what we would want to see, what we have had is actualized. I close by saying, together, let us choose peace. Together, let us protect our democracy. Together, let us build a united and cohesive Kenya, for we are a people guided by one people, one nation with a shared destiny. Thank you so much. It gives me great pleasure now to welcome to this podium the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Interior, Waziri Onesmus Murkomen, to take over from here. And then, after you're done, you bring to us, to the podium,
thank you very much,
our chief guest. Thank you.
Chair. Pigeni makofi Chair wa NCIC. Asante sana. I think I will need some help here with my gadget, with the person who was here. First of all, let me say the Chair, Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the Chair of the NCIC, our friend and our very robust Chair, Kefo Mai. I know him as Bishop, but now I can see you're preaching the gospel of unity and cohesion. It tells me Matthew 5:9, the chair of the IEBC, who is also my senior colleague in the legal profession, Erastus Ethekon, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, the commissioners, the excellencies from various agencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. Good morning once again. Good morning. As you can see, I've lost my notes. So if I speak a lot, that is the problem of technology. Next time, I'll come with a backup. First of all, I'm very, very much appreciative of the fact that you have invited us to this very important forum. As a ministry, we are very, very excited with the work you're doing and for starting on the right note. Congratulations, Pana Chair. There was a period of time that we had a huge gap, and that is when I realized that you need NCIC, and we need NCIC. And so let me start by saying that for your thoughts, for your plans, for the appreciation of the environment you're operating in, it looks like you are a team that was predestined to be here because I can see, and Kenyans need to appreciate that your understanding of the environment you're operating in means that the process that identified you was a proper process, and we truly appreciate the work you have done. Maybe let me have my phone. I can use my phone. Nowadays, you don't need to carry speech, you just carry your phone and then you whatever, your whole speech is here. Okay, she had succeeded. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me say that I want to thank the Cabinet Secretary for gracing the launch of this very important document at the invitation of National Cohesion and Integration Commission. Thank you, Prime Cabinet Secretary. There would be no better person to launch such a document I have always said that in the political scene, you are the test of the reasonable man. So, so having you here is the right thing. You need to have a leader present in such an environment who has a track record of having never thrown one stone. I appreciate the work you are doing, Your Excellency, with the President, and your track record over many years in your political circle. You have kept high level of integrity, and that qualifies you to speak on matters of national cohesion, integration, and peaceful elections. So you are really the right person befitting to come and launch this very important document. The Ministry of Interior stands ready to work with NCIC and IEBC and all the relevant agencies to translate the roadmap, into action. The 2027 general election must demonstrate that Kenya can compete politically without sacrificing peace, unity, and national progress. The lessons we learned from the 2007-2008 general election remain a national reminder that electoral violence carries a human, social, and economic cost that no Kenyan should be willing to repeat. The 2027, therefore, is an opportunity for us to disagree without dividing, to compete without destroying, and to choose leaders without violence. I really like what somebody said earlier. I don't know if it was the chair of IEBC, that you know that 70% of Kenyan population is below 35 or thereabout. I guess about the same percentage are voters in Kenya. And therefore, a good number of them were actually basically toddlers in 2007-2008. We assume that some of us who were young those days still think we are young. And so you assume everybody is, since you meet a 20-year-old, you think they know what happened 2007-2008, except what they read from the papers and so forth. And then we have a very poor teaching methods in Kenya where history is not considered very seriously. And you know, if you see other progressive countries, they keep repeating incidences as history as part of their teaching and lessons for their people. So many young people may never really appreciate what happened in 2007-2008. But those of us, most of us who are in this room, understand what happened. And it's important for us to say that in these elections, we choose as a Kenyans, not leaving it to government or to the National Police Service or the Ministry of Interior or the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. We need to choose that we can disagree without dividing our country, and we can compete without destroying either lives or property. Our task now is to institutionalize peace and ensure that the 2027 is remembered for the maturity of our democracy, not for the division. Ladies and gentlemen, security must create the conditions in which Kenyans can participate freely while remaining professional, impartial, and firmly within the Constitution and the law. Security is not simply the absence of violence. It is an environment in which Kenyans can assemble, campaign, speak, vote, and engage in public life without intimidation or fear. And I've emphasized the word intimidation or fear. Because the rhetoric that is out there now is that people are being told that if we hear you campaigning for X and Y, yeah, you are ostracized, you are msaliti, you are betrayer. That is violence. That is violence. Violence doesn't have to be their guns and stones. The moment someone feels like, if I have in a certain, community or locality, I cannot be allowed to speak about my political views freely because I have been intimidated. In fact, to the extent that politicians are saying, if we find an agent of a political party or a certain political player, we will do something to you. That is violence. That is violence. And so the same people speak on both sides, They're talking about goons, and they're propagating violence in the same meeting. So we need an environment that which Kenyans can assemble, campaign, speak, vote, and engage in public life without intimidation or fear. And let me say this, why I agree with everybody who has said here that security is not about police, it's not about the National Police Service, it's about all of us. It's because, just imagine, how many police officers do you need to deploy to monitor every activity that is going to happen in the country? You can't. There has to be a culture in this and the acceptance in the society among all of us that we want to have an environment that is peaceful, and therefore it starts with us. Interestingly, Bishop, now that you are here and you are Bishop, interestingly, this is the same country that calls itself 80% religious, and most of them say they are Christians. And these statements are being made in church, you know. And the bishop will conclude with a prayer without standing and saying, no, I disagree with what these people have said here. Members of this church, go home, vote for whoever you want to vote for, you will still go to heaven. It is the same. It's the same environment. It's until now, another day, another person, and then we say we are Christians, we are Muslims, we are religious, we are going to heaven. Which heaven? So we need to, anyway, the ministry will, this ministry that I lead will strengthen coordination among security agencies and national government administration structures so that emerging risks are identified early, assessed jointly, and addressed lawfully. Security operations during the electoral period must be professional, accountable, and sensitive to community confidence. There will be no room for political violence, intimidation, organized gangs, incitement, or the use of criminal networks as instruments of political competition. I agree with the position that we need to have early warnings. So the most effective security response is the one that prevents violence before it starts. I have been accused of public saying, oh, we know some politicians, you're planning this, we know you're doing this. You need to differentiate between, and then people say, okay, so you know, why don't you arrest them? Why don't you arrest them? Why are you not, you know? We must also differentiate between intelligence and evidence, you know? When we have security intelligence, we use it to warn people. It's part of the, early warning. We use it to expose the politicians or the actors who will want to destroy our country. We use it to warn citizens and to ask them to cooperate. But you know what amounts to ability for a police officer to arrest someone and take to court is when you have evidence, not intelligence. And if you're a lawyer, you will understand the difference between the two. Because we, in the security sector, are consumer of intelligence information that may not stand the test of court as evidence, we have to use that information to warn people early, to tell them we know some people are trying to do this. Sometimes you position police officers in certain areas in the event that they actualize what you have collected in the evidence. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But you use that for deployment and for positioning. And therefore, when people say, why did you arrest these people early? They have not reached the threshold where you can arrest. You will arrest, you will present them before court, you will be told, you will actually be told that you're using rumors to arrest people. So early warning is very important. And therefore, we welcome the roadmap's emphasis on conflict mapping, early warning, early response, mediation, peace and cohesion monitors, and continuous monitoring of electoral environment. I propose, Chair, that it is not enough to identify areas that are likely to have certain instances of violence, goons or violence or inter-ethnic conflict and so forth. It is also important to profile the leaders who are propagators of those instances. So I will be very happy and will support NCIC if we can work together to make public information about leaders who are inciting people as well as the areas that have a possibility of that incitement. The ministry will work with NCIC and other institutions to strengthen information sharing and coordination. And we want to appreciate the National Intelligence Service because they do a very good job in collecting information that is necessary for early warning. And it's important for once that information is relayed to the various institutions, we share all of us so that we can prevent. In some instances, we need you in places like, for example, Transmara, where you saw the report the other day, where 2 people fought in a bar. And then within hours, not days, within hours, it became intercommunity conflict. So in such areas, you require NCIC because to work together with our Ngao officers to call for barazas, engage people. And that's the same in a number of pastoralist areas when we're required to do the same. So hotspot mapping must be dynamic. We must monitor changing patterns of tension, including political mobilization, community disputes, organized criminal activity, inflammatory messaging, and localized conflict. Focus should be on preventing crisis through foresight, intelligence, dialogue, and coordinated intervention rather than managing the results. I should not be saying much, but allow me, PCS, because you are our chief guest, just to add a few more things to this, is that when we tell people it is good to have early warning, we mean so. It's not because the police are unable. I like what somebody said here about rights holders and duty bearers. I think the chair of IEBC. A right holder is also a duty bearer. You know, you cannot be a consumer of rights and you, at the same time, you have no duty to observe the rights of others and to protect the rights of others. The National Police Service has done a lot. It's just that I've been telling the IG, you need to talk more. It shouldn't be the cabinet secretary alone. You need to speak about the things you have done to prevent violence. We have arrested so many people. Let me start by saying in 2024 and 2025 protests, and even 2026 protests, in 2024 especially, when goons and criminals came to the city, burned the property, destroyed lives, at that point in time, the national psyche was that it was our youth. In fact, some of the instances of violence in 2024 protests were celebrated in some churches, and people given platform and said we must protect. Even bishops were publicly saying we don't want our youth to be harassed. They must be given the space to do what they need to do. Last year, the same. Property destroyed. A police station in Kikuyu was raided. A court in Kikuyu was burned. Olkalau police station was burned. Shops were burned. All those kinds of people, properties looted. What was the response, the national psyche politically? These are our youth. We should not be arrested. We arrested 3,000 people and presented in court. Some, including politicians, were charged in a court of law for terror because of the acts they were propagating to terrorize people. What happened? They were given bail terms, very lenient ones, 1,500, or some others were released, and they left there and say, and so the judiciary, the magistrates were feeling like they're exercising democracy. So those things have now, mutated to political circles. Now everybody is coming out to say, we must fight goons. But when we were saying these people are goons, some people were cheering. That's why I'm saying this is a collective responsibility for all of us to make sure that we deal with this issue. Let me give another example. In Homa Bay, the other day, the National Police Service deployed police officers to escort Linda Wananchi campaigners, both in Sindo and Nyandiwa. It was during the day. And everybody can see the pictures were there. Police were escorting Orengo and the team. They went to the rally. They did 2 rallies. They finished the rallies. When they were going to Homa Bay town, at about 6 p.m., it's becoming dark, the county security team and the regional security team advised them that it is good to call off the rally because it's dark. And you can see there are incidences of violence here. Please call off the rallies. What did they say? They say they must go to town. We must exercise our democracy. What happened? 1 police officer died, 4 of them were injured, cars were burned, and so forth. Later, when I told people that the best thing at that point in time was the politicians to call off the rally, and come another day. What is happening now in the media spaces? Oh, the minister is speaking irresponsibly. Do you want to tell me that political leaders have no duty, and they do not have duty at that point in time, in darkness, to tell their supporters, there is another day we will come here? Do you want to say that it was police had to be there by all means, even in darkness, without giving that warning that we want to have? Ladies and gentlemen, we advise the people who organize rallies that we have rights to have rallies and political rights, but we have responsibility to work with the security team to ensure that we protect our people. And that's why when I say these things, I see people cracking jokes around there. This is not a joking matter. The national security architecture, the cabinet secretary telling you here, I'm not speaking about my own things. I'm speaking about assessed security information. That there will be times that the citizens will be told, enough is enough, let's go home. It is not fair to lose lives in the circumstance and the environment that we are in, so that then we can safeguard the lives of the people of Kenya. Lastly, let me say two last things. As a ministry last year, we established what is called Jukwaa la Usalama. Jukwaa la Usalama was not baraza for the sake of, some people thought it was just minister going around the country. It's a concept that we established that, and we have told our county security teams and regional security teams, and particular county and sub-county security teams, that it was not a one-off thing. The cabinet secretary cannot come around all the time, but we were establishing Jukwaa la Usalama forum to bring together security actors, including those people who are playing security role in the civil society and in the community, to have a conversation about issues that are happening around their community, and to take advantage of the structure of Jukwaa la Usalama as a platform for early warning, conflict prevention, and protecting our democracy. I want to propose, Mr. Chair, that as you go about implementing this report, take advantage of this structure of Jukwaa la Usalama. Let us work together with the NGAO team, the National Government Administration team on the ground, so that citizens are given trusted platform to speak. And I'm very happy. I have grown through civil society. So over my life, I've organized meetings for youth and so forth in previous elections. Let me tell you, we need to go back to where the civil society is given the space, or they create the space to engage as many young people as possible across the country, in barazas, in workshops, in meetings, so that we can distract them from negative messaging that comes from those who are propagating hatred. So it is a place for identifying information that can help us to take our country forward. So Jukwaa la Usalama therefore serves as a grassroots early warning and early response platform for the electoral circle, helping us to identify emerging hotspots, hear community concerns, challenge misinformation, and bring the right institution together before tensions escalate. We do not want to discover violence after it has happened. We want to hear the warning before the violence. That is the purpose of Jukwaa la Usalama. Finally, Your Excellency, political leadership carries the first responsibility for setting the tone for the electoral environment. The roadmap is right to identify hate speech, dangerous speech, ethnic mobilization, zoning narratives, intolerance, and goonism as serious threats to peaceful competition. Political competition must be won through ideas. It must be won through the ballot. It must never be won through fear. No region of Kenya belongs to one candidate, one party, or one community. Kenya belongs to all Kenyans. Citizens have the right to campaign, live, work, invest, and participate peacefully in every part of Kenya, and to marry anyone. Yeah, to marry from any part of Kenya. You know, I have been threatened. I've been threatened that my wife and my children will be withdrawn. So I was very concerned. And I was asking myself, why does, even if you withdraw my wife, what do you do with her? She has 4 boys. So anyway, let me not go there. But I'm just saying that this rhetoric is very bad. Yeah, just imagine young people watching and dating their girlfriends or boyfriends from different communities, and they're watching leaders who are aspiring the highest office in the country, trying to even interfere with family setups. So this is the kind of narrative. I don't know. I mean, I wish there was a law that gave IEBC even greater power to ban people from running, because the hygiene of our politics really needs to be clean. Yeah. And as someone said, the political offices are for 0.0001%. Less than 2,000 people looking to serve us. But we are using money. The chairman is asking money. IG is asking for money. Everybody's asking for money to protect 2,000 people from burning the country. And then the rest of us who are 49,800,000. Yeah? 998,000 now are busy fighting ourselves so that the 2,000 can get space in government. It's such a paradox. And therefore, I must say that we need to become very vigilant in this messaging. Can we have leaders stop talking about my community, my tribe, I shudder when I see a leader say, "Mimi nataka kuambia Wajaluo, Wakalenjin, Wakikuyu," and he speaks so. And then what will you tell Kenyans? Leaders must reject language that balkanizes the country into hostile ethnic or regional enclaves. No recruitment, financing, or deployment of criminal gangs for political purposes, and security agencies will act firmly and impartially against the organizers. We arrested 27. The National Police Service arrested 27 hardcore criminals who were targeting the rallies in Homa Bay. They are now in police cells waiting to be charged. I will be observing with keen interest to see what the magistrates will do. But Kenyans must give credit to the police for actually taking those preventive measures. And we must encourage the police when you see them doing the right thing, not only bashing them all the time. Lastly, I've said lastly many times, but I'm trying to shorten my speech, is that we need to deal with we need to take advantage of our young people who are national asset, and we must be able to trust and engage them. They are not a security problem, but a security asset. And we must give them legitimate avenues for participation, support youth-led peace initiatives, civic dialogue, sports, and community engagement that build belonging and shared purpose. We must also ensure that we protect the digital space where many youth are affected, including mental health issues. We must deal with issues of misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, hate speech, and all those AI-generated deep content, which is deep fakes and so forth. I'm glad that you're asking for technology to monitor that space. I think you should be supported. Parliament should give you resources to do so that people can be charged. Therefore, on behalf of this ministry, I want to leave it there. On behalf of this ministry, I want to assure you that we will go out of our way to ensure that our country is safe. We will work with the media. I want to apologize to media in instances where the police were unable to protect you during some of these rallies and political instances. I was really saddened by the journalists who were injured in Homa Bay. That was really very sad. And you cannot tell journalists not to cover. You can't even tell them go home, because they have to cover every incident, even when the people are going home. And I must say that there has to be DIG, the IG and the team must work closely with the media houses to see how best we can protect journalists. And to even when deploying, we have a keen eye on where the reporters are so that they do not find themselves in the midst of this violence. Thank you, DIG, so that then people of Kenya can get proper reporting. But in the same spirit, please, be responsible. You see, you watch the news now, story number 1, hate speech. And it's only given to certain political actors. Story number 2, the same people. Story number 3, the same one. Good news is when people have gone to sleep. Yeah? In fact, don't be surprised that the story of today may not find space, maybe number 10 or there. Yeah? When people are talking about good things, about the good of the country, usually it never gets the space. But very small stories, and then cutting some statements. When you go and cut my speech in a small clip without the context, and then you start saying, the minister said, if you know that there will be criminals in a particular place, rally, you should not go. You must contextualize, you know, you must put the context in place. Otherwise, and then you start saying, the minister said, everybody take care of yourself, there will be no police in your rallies. You must deal with the context. And you demean the institutions. You limber, and before you report anything about IEBC, I prefer you be even more careful. You better be reckless with me. Yeah? I'm not saying you do, but once you do what you do with IEBC, and then people lose faith with IEBC, because which alternative do you have? You know, which alternative do you have? Do you have another commission to take care of elections? So let's also, all of us, become responsible in the things we do. I am a very strong consumer and beneficiary of media, and I believe that responsibly deployed, it can protect our country. With those many remarks, and with a lot of apologies for having spoken for too long, it is not in my practice to do so, but I got the forum to say a few things I wanted to say. Prime Cabinet Secretary, so I apologize for behaving as though I was the chief guest. I am not. I am just John the Baptist, preparing the way for His Excellency Prime Cabinet Secretary. Let us all stand and welcome His Excellency Musalia Mudavadi.
Thank you. Please be seated. The Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Interior and National Administration, Chairperson of NCIC, Kefo Mai, Nyamoya, and your entire team of commissioners and office staff, the Chair of the Electoral Commission, Erastus Ethekon, the Deputy IG, who is with us here, leaders of political parties, leaders, members of the civil society, private sector, our youth, and our collaborating partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I think it is still morning, so I say good morning. Good morning. When Kipchumba was making his remarks, I thought it was so important. He didn't have to worry about the latitude he had. Because I think today we are gathered here for a very, very important meeting. That's why we are here. Very, very important. And I hope the import of this gathering will receive sufficient attention and sufficient propagation, because the consequence of what will be discussed here can either make or break the country. That is how serious this gathering is. And that is why we are here to work together, move together, collaborate, so that we can ensure that we save our country from disaster. So let me begin by thanking the National Cohesion and Integration Commission for inviting me to preside over the launch of this roadmap to a violence-free 2027 general election titled Uchaguzi Bila Noma, Bila Fujo. I think the title captures, in very few words, what we all want to see. We want an election that is competitive, vigorous, at times even noisy, because that is the nature of politics. But we also want an election in which, when the votes have been cast and counted, Kenyans remain united as Kenyans. We may support different candidates and belong to different political parties, but we must remain one people and one nation. That is why this roadmap is important. Over the past several election cycles, Kenya has made progress. We have witnessed closely contested elections conducted with greater restraint than in the past. We should acknowledge that progress. But we should also be honest with ourselves. Peace is not something that we inherit permanently. It has to be built, maintained, and guarded, particularly when political temperatures begin to rise. And that responsibility does not belong to one institution, one sector of society, as several speakers have indicated. Neither can it be delivered. Government, political parties, religious leaders, civil society, the private sector, all must act in consonance. It requires all of us working together in the national interest. We are convinced that in our national conversation, we sometimes underestimate the economic value of peace and stability. We rightly speak about roads, railways, ports, airports, power plants, and other infrastructure. These investments are indeed critical to our development. They create the physical foundation upon which economic growth can take place. But we must also ask ourselves a more fundamental question. What is the value of infrastructure if people do not feel safe enough to use it? What is the value of a modern railway if insecurity keeps people from traveling? What of a port and an industrial park or a major investment? Peace may not appear as a line, and you cannot easily place it on a conventional balance sheet. Families the confidence to plan their lives. It gives businesses the confidence that their capital will be safe and the rules of the game will be stable. Firstly, when peace and stability are disrupted, the cost is immediate and far-reaching. We saw this very clearly in 2007 and 2008. And indeed, the previous speakers, particularly the chairman of IEBC, has dwelt substantially on this. Lives were lost. Families were displaced. Businesses were destroyed. Children were forced out of school. Economic activity was disrupted. Jobs disappeared. And communities that had lived side by side for generations suddenly began to look at each other with suspicion. That experience should remain firmly in our national memory. I will say something about this a little later, just to emphasize. Because infrastructure can be rebuilt, roads can be repaired, businesses can reopen, markets can recover, economies eventually regain lost ground. But when a life is lost, there's no reconstruction project that can bring that person back. That is why preventing violence, political violence, is not simply about protecting the electoral process. It is about protecting the Kenyan economy, protecting livelihoods, and above all, protecting Kenyan lives. We must therefore understand that political confidence and economic confidence move together. Investors watch our politics, employers watch our politics, small traders watch our politics, families watch our politics. When uncertainty grows, people become cautious. Investment is postponed. Hiring slows down. Businesses hold back. And those who feel the impact first are often the ordinary Kenyans who have the least room to absorb an economic shock. Most of you here have a secondary insurance somewhere. The people who are hit hardest don't have that insurance, that luxury. So a peaceful and credible election is not merely a political objective. It is also an economic objective and a national development objective. As rightly said here, peace does not begin on election day. By the time Kenyans line up to vote, much of the work of preserving peace should already have been done. That is why I want us to see it not simply as a document, to work before tensions become crisis. Because once and fear becomes hostility, restoring trust becomes much harder. This brings me to the role. We can campaign vigorously. We can challenge one another. We can criticize government and opposition. We can defend our political positions with passion. That is democracy. But political competition must never become a license to dehumanize our opponents. Words matter. What a leader says from a podium matters. What a political party circulates on social media matters. What an influencer repeats to millions of young Kenyans matters. What a media platform chooses to amplify matters. Even what each one of us forwards to a WhatsApp group matters. Sometimes violence begins long before the first stone is thrown, and I think the minister emphasized that point as well. It begins with language. It begins with the steady normalization of contempt, hatred, and suspicion. That is why peace must be built in ordinary places as much as it is protected in national institutions. It is built in our homes, in our markets, in churches and mosques, in workplaces, in matatu stages, in our communities, and increasingly now on our phones. Every Kenyan, therefore, has a role to play. I want in particular to make an appeal to our young people. You are not passive spectators in the politics of this country. You are informed, energetic, and deeply engaged. You have every right to question those who lead you, including those of us in government. You have the right to demand accountability, better leadership, and better opportunities. But I also ask you to hold yourselves to the same high standard. Do not allow politics to persuade you that another Kenyan is your enemy simply because he or she supports a different candidate. An election will come and go. Campaign posters will eventually come down. Political slogans will fade like NASA. NASA how? Politicians who disagree loudly today will sometimes sit in the same meeting tomorrow and work together on matters of national interest. But ordinary Kenyans will continue living side by side. So why should we destroy friendships, family ties, and relationships today that we may desperately need tomorrow? Our democratic institutions too must be allowed to do their work professionally, independently, and within the Constitution. The IEBC must be able to manage the electoral process. The judiciary must be able to discharge its constitutional responsibilities. Our security agencies must protect citizens and uphold the law. NCIC must work of addressing hate speech, discrimination, and incitement. That does not require us to agree with every decision. It requires us to accept that democracy is sustained by institutions, rules, not by whether the outcome happens to please us. Our task, therefore, is not disagreement. That would neither be possible nor desirable. Our task is to learn how to disagree without becoming enemies. As we move towards 2027, we should keep reminding ourselves of a very simple truth. Kenya is bigger than any election. Kenya is bigger than any political party. Kenya is bigger than any individual politician. Peace and stability are among our greatest national assets. We must therefore protect them with the same seriousness with which we protect our most important economic investments. And we must not wait for violence to begin before we ask where we went wrong. Let us act early. Let us keep talking, even when conversations are difficult. Let us listen to one another. Let us lower the temperature when necessary. Let us hold the leaders accountable for the language they use. And let us make peaceful political competition a habit rather than an exception. Because ultimately, the Kenya we want to build after 2027 will still need all of us. Our success is tied together. When Kenya is peaceful, we all benefit. When Kenya is unstable, we all pay. That is why this roadmap matters. And that is why today I am pleased to join the National Cohesion and Integration Commission and all our partners in launching the roadmap. to a violence-free 2027 general election, Uchaguzi Bila Noma, second edition. If you can indulge me just for 2 minutes or so, just to emphasize a few things. It is true that after the elections of 2007, 2008, Kenya lost 1,400 souls. Obviously, majority of them were young souls. Here in Kibera, there was a situation where there was a sniper that was called the Butcher of Kibera. And I want to be a little bit lurid, but I want you to try and conceptualize this. When you go to a hospital or a morgue and you see live a small hole and a shattered scalp at the end, then you realize that those who talk about enjoying a bit of excitement at a political rally have no clue about what they're talking about. There's no fun when you see young people dead, either through a bullet or through a machete or through a blunt object that has been used against these people. We must deal with these things squarely, collectively. We must not allow political lynching in the name of ethnicity, in the name of economic class. We must not allow any form of lynching. How many of you, as intelligent as you are today in this room, and those listening to us, when you go to hospital, how many of you would dare ask about the ethnicity of your blood when you need blood? Maybe the person you vilify so much is blood that through a transfusion is going to save your life in your hour of need. So we must be careful with what we say. Equally, we must not have social media lynching. Let's talk candidly about these things. There's also media lynching. It's happening. Let's talk candidly and honestly about this. And it's building up systematically. And if we don't self-regulate and then manage ourselves, we are going to drive this country into chaos. Imagine for a moment if the IG and his team and the CS for Interior, imagine, just imagine for a moment if they went on strike and decided they're not going to work. what will you be left with? We can have a bit of strike from the teachers. We can have strike from nurses. We can have the Matatu strike. But try to ever imagine a moment if your security agencies in totality went on strike. These are the deeper issues that we need to ask. I want to ask the people on the social media, Kenya is not perfect. It's not. Democracy and the way we build it's work in progress. But surely, when you continue to glorify failed democracies somewhere in the Sahel on social media, and pretend that those are the working economies, do you know what you're talking about? These are the fundamental questions that we have to have here. This is the dialogue that we need to have, the conversation that we need to have honestly with each other. In Sudan, over 14 million children are not going to school. Heaven knows how many people are displaced now. But let's also face it. There's a Middle East crisis. There's the conflict in Ukraine. Who is paying attention to the conflicts in Africa? If we lose Kenya, it will just be counted as just another round of the conflicts that we see across Africa. Nobody is going to pay special attention. It is us, me, you, and so many others who are not here, who must pay special attention to Kenya. Not anybody else. It's us. We must elect good people. Imagine when we talk about Gunism and all that. Can you imagine if you had a parliament of thugs? Yeah. Because if you glorify leaders who excite you on a stage with violence, and you think that that is the best example of leadership, then eventually you're going to have a parliament that is full of thugs. That's going to be the consequence. People who don't respect the rule of law. You'll be creating a very dangerous institution. Clothed as a parliament, but it is a dangerous institution. So we need to really think through some of these things. Criticism is okay. Correction is better. Criticize, but also provide positive solutions, because correction is better. I was involved in the process of trying to mediate after the 2007-2008 conflict. We were with the sitting president today, President William Ruto, and others who are in this country. Under the mediation process of Kofi Annan, Mkapa, and Gracia Machel. Perhaps we succeeded at that time because there was no Ukraine war. Perhaps we succeeded to mediate and have the peace come through because there was no serious Middle East crisis. Maybe that is why the global attention was different. But today, if we wreck ourselves, let me tell you, the parameters, the geopolitics are different. It's not going to be the same. We negotiated for 42 days to bring peace and tranquility back into the country. It then morphed into the Grand Coalition government, then laid the groundwork eventually for the constitution that we all enjoy today. It was a process born out of severe bloodletting and slaughter. We cannot go back there. We should not go back there. We should not even contemplate going back there. So I want to appeal to you that this is a very important forum. Our country depends on how we decide or choose to move forward as we go on. It's not a walk in the park. We have a responsibility. I went to a youth program at Nyangori PAG a few days ago. It was the World Youth Week, UN Youth Week. So they were celebrating in different areas. So I went to one. And there was a young lady who came there and she announced that she wants to contest for one of the electoral seats. And she spoke and I was very amused. But she then said, I have come to declare that I intend to contest because as Gen Z, when we tried to enter the parliament by climbing over the gates, we were told it was wrong. So now I have decided that I want to offer myself for an electoral seat. And I thought that was a very, very fundamental statement from that young person. The gradual realization that it is through the ballot that we will solidify this country, and not otherwise. I am a strong supporter of the president, and that is why I've been saying that his victory can only come through one way, through the ballot. A peaceful process through the ballot. Not in any other form. There's no other constitutional way. It has to be through the ballot. So, as a famous politician from Bungoma, with a very heavy Luya accent like mine, I would always say, tukutane kwa tepe. Tukutane wapi? Katepe. But to get there, we have to follow the chart, the pathway, the roadmap that has been launched today. Ladies and gentlemen, I've taken a lot of your time, but this was such an essential matter, in my view, that we have all taken this extra time, but for a good purpose. And it's a journey that we must walk together. Every young man, every young woman, every male, every female, all of us collectively, and all our institutions, we must hold hands and walk together. God bless you.
Please, let's be seated. Allow me to thank most sincerely Secretary, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora. Thank also our Cabinet Secretary and all the leaders who have stood here to speak on behalf of all of us. As I was listening to our leaders, I felt like this is what actually we are supposed to be doing. Not only here, but even in the town hall forums that we intend to have, and in the spaces where we are. You'll agree with me, the wisdom that has come out of our leaders, our Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Interior, and the leaders who spoke have all focused our attention towards what must be done. May we leave this place thinking once again as to how all of us can collaborate and make sure that we safeguard the peace landscape of this country. What's coming out clear is that we have no other country. At this point in time, we wish to have Commissioner Hassan just to come and lead us now into a very important segment of our being here this morning, and that time has come. Over to you, Commissioner Hassan.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thanks for taking that opportunity to thank our Prime Cabinet Secretary. I was filled with wisdom, Mr. Prime Cabinet Secretary, and those were very deep thoughts, and I believe that as a country we need to take that into consideration. So I don't want to take much of your time. I think most of the things have been said, and now it will be we are going to unveil the roadmap. Now that we have known the roadmap towards peaceful election, we have also understood the roadblocks, and we also know the strategies that NCIC is putting in place. It is my honor now to welcome the following dignitaries to somewhere here next to that plaque, that plaque curtain. So I'll welcome our Prime Cabinet Secretary to join me. I will also welcome CS Murkomen to join us. I will also welcome NCIC Chairperson and IEBC Chairperson to be with us. It will be followed by the UNDP representative, RCKA representative, and then the National Steering Committee, UANO Platform for Interior. Kindly join us so that we can be able to launch, and NCIC commissioners and the CEO. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the count of 1, 2, 3, we will be able to unveil the roadmap to peaceful election. So I will start. Thank you. So in the count of 1, 2, 3, let's unveil the roadmap to peaceful 2027 election. Can we put our hands together? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That is the roadmap to peaceful 2027 election. We will make sure that we will give copies of the booklet to everyone who is in attendance. We will also take a brief photo session with the dignitaries. So thank you so much. So once we do the photo, we do the photo, we'll be able to go back to our seats and we will give each one of you a copy of the 2027 free election bill and norma. So thank you very much, Prime Cabinet Secretary. Thank you so much, our CS Secretary, Interior and National Administration. And also thank you very much, our Chair NCIC and our Chair IEBC, and all the commissioners present and all the dignitaries present. So are we ready for the photo session? Or we do it here? So first the Cabinet Secretary and the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll have our dignitaries have a moment for photo session. So the photo sessions will be proceeding as follows. We are requesting our chief guest, together with the Cabinet Secretary, the Chair of IEBC, the Chair of NCIC. Joe, yeah. The first photo will be for our chief guest, then the Cabinet Secretary, the Chair, and they'll be flanked by the commissioners. So the commissioners, NCIC commissioners, please join them. That is the first session of the photo. CSO, please step down fast. We'll be calling in terms. Yes. So please, the first session, everybody will have chance. So if you're not a commissioner, and please step down. This is just, you will have your session. Please, you'll have your session. It's a session for the chief guest, the IEBC, the Deputy Inspector General, and NCIC commissioners. That's the first session. The second set after this, other constitutional commissions, commissioners from other institutional commissions, please join after this. All right, thank you. Oh, thank you. Then after the interfaith, yes, members of the interfaith, please. Members of the interfaith, join the photo session. The members of the interfaith, please join the photo. The interfaith members, balance. Some of you can come this side. We want to do it very fast. Yes. Then, thank you. Then the third session will be with the development partners. Please, the interfaith members, you can step down. You may step down. We are inviting our development partners to take photos. Our development partners, including the British High Commission, please join. All right. And other members of the diplomatic corps who are present, please join this photo. Right. Thank you. Okay. All right. Then as we are winding up this session, our colleagues from civil society, please join the session, the photo session. Yes, okay, yeah. All right. Okay, please, those who have civil society, please come. Balance, some can come this side. Let's do it fast. All right, I think that's better, so that you can All right, please. Now, last photo.